Ever feel like your stress just comes out of the nowhere? It's not just your dispatch manager that is being difficult. It's not that heavy traffic that you're in. Maybe not even that bad weather sometimes. What if I told you that it is our brains the way they are wired and it is doing exactly what it is designed to do? Once you know how this actually works, it's going to help you to have better control over it, the stress level, instead of it having control over you. Welcome back to Survivorneers Truck Talk. I'm James, and on this channel, we help truckers with their personal development. And today, we're going to understand how the brain works a little bit more closely so that you can keep your head in the game while being a trucker out on the road. I, by no means, am a neuroscientist or a doctor, but we can all understand some basics on how the brain works. So we're just going to go over a few parts so that we can have a deeper understanding of how this system works mentally. So the first one that we are going to introduce here is the amygdala. And the amygdala is that almond-shaped part in the brain and is located here in the center. And it is responsible for alerting ourselves of danger or something that is imminent that we fear or something that is a threat. And so this goes back all the way into history, of course, where our ancestors had to survive and they had to hunt for their food, provide for their family. They had to understand when to go out and not to go out so that they would not be in imminent danger or put themselves in jeopardy. And so if they found themselves in jeopardy, the amygdala is the part of the brain that reacts, and it is responsible for the fight or flight or even the freeze response. And so understanding that the amygdala is a trigger system, it's an alert system to help us understand that if we are in danger, we need to react, we need to flee, or we need to freeze. So that we can understand this system better, just remember that if you are in danger or it's a life or death situation, it is going to be your amygdala that is going to press the panic button for you so that you can protect yourself. So just keep this in mind that this is the part of the brain that works this way. Now we have, in contrast, but also is responsible for decision making, the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that is located in the front part, of your brain, and it is responsible for planning and organizing and just making decisions in a logical way. There is a doctor, Dr. Melanie Greenberg, who is the writer and author of The Stress-Proof Brain, and she states that the prefrontal cortex is sort of like the CEO of the system. The prefrontal cortex is responsible to make reasonable and logical decisions. It's actually taking all the parts that it knows in the system and bringing it all together, a culmination of elements or things that it needs to process to make a sound decision. This is the prefrontal cortex. However, if we are having a stressful day and we just can't control our stress and things are just piling up, the amygdala is going to hijack the prefrontal cortex. And we don't want that because sometimes it's not necessary to have an overreaction to a certain stress while we're truck driving. So keep this in mind. The amygdala and the prefrontal cortex are very important systems, but one is sometimes necessary or not necessary, and the other is like the CEO that is going to bring all the information together and to help you make a good decision and also have good judgment. So now that that brief science class is over, why do we need to know this as truck drivers? Well, having now a little bit more of an understanding of the brain and how it works, we need to know this because when we're out driving and we're constantly scanning our environment for threats, for traffic, for someone, a dumb driver who's going to cut us off or when we're on the highway and on the feeder, you even have other truck drivers or other cars or small pickup trucks trying to get in the lane while we are on the highway and we do have the right of way. But of course, a professional truck driver does what? Well, they either scoot over to allow the other traffic to come in off the feeder, or we slow down to let them in. And I know sometimes we all have done it, truck drivers. We get a little bit impatient and we speed up to not let that person in. And so our brains are wired sometimes to react, and we don't want to react where it's not necessary. You know, if someone is giving us a hard time in traffic, or if our dispatch manager is arguing with us in a way that is making us frustrated, and now we're in a bad mood and things start to just add up and the momentum is going in a negative way, and we just have had a terrible and miserable day. Well, guess what? The amygdala has hijacked your attitude, it has hijacked your emotions for you to react that way in this situation. So, this is why, as truck drivers, it is important for us to understand these parts of the brain. And in this case, choosing the prefrontal cortex to organize, plan, and make good decisions is the choice that we should make, not respond or react in an unnecessary way. Now that we have a little bit of understanding of how the brain works, what is a proven scientific method to help reduce or lower that stress as a trucker out on the road and as a trucker experiencing these different things that we encounter out on the road? Well, one method that we can use is once our amygdala is triggered and we are about to react, we want to take a pause and we want to take a deep breath, one deep breath, and then ask ourselves, is this really worth getting stressed over? Why am I feeling stressed? Is this really the cause of me becoming stressed or about to overreact? Is it something in front of me that is an imminent danger? Or is it in my head? And am I allowing that to create anxiety and fear and other negative emotions that are going to take over my entire being? So that is one method that we can do when we're about to react on the stress. Another method that we can do is ask the question, what can I control right now? Do I really have control over bad drivers? Do I really have control over a difficult dispatch manager? Do I have control over bad weather? And the answer to these questions is no. I don't have control over these things. These are out of my control. And so when we understand this, that we're about to, have a bad day and be stressful and be moody, ask yourself, do I have control over it? And if you don't, this will help us to better manage and reduce the stress and control our mood and our emotions. So I want us to mentally set these stresses aside at the moment they are happening and focus on centering yourself and balancing yourself when you are about to feel stress. Even if you have already allowed the amygdala to take over, it is now time to come back to center, do some breathing work, mentally contain those stresses, put them in a box, set them aside. They don't have control over you. You have control over your well-being. I don't have to say, truckers, that we see out here every day a lot of reactions from traffic and people and even other truck drivers. I remember when I was parked near a cat scale in the parking lot, and I parked in a way where truck drivers can still get through, but there was this one truck driver that really wanted to make a point. He already had overreacted, and he literally came beside my truck at the cab, parked. He began to yell and say that I needed to get out of the way, that I was in the way, and I knew that I wasn't. And so I had a choice right there to react to the situation and say something back. Because remember, in a lot of these stressful moments and a lot of fights start, why? Because of the most powerful weapon, the tongue. The tongue is the one that is going to get us in trouble. And that's going to create even more stress and be in a situation that we don't want to be in. So the best thing to do in that situation is that you ignore the overreaction and you go about your calm day and you make your day a good day. And so in this case, I bring up that brief story that we are surrounded by other stressful truck drivers as well. And sometimes they may want to react. And it is our responsibility to stay calm, to be the better person, to be the professional truck driver, and continue about our day. So as we bring this all together in this discussion, what we learned today was that the amygdala is responsible for that alert system, for that reaction when we are facing danger or a threat. Don't let it hijack you. Allow the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain, to make good decisions and organize. And now that we have this understanding, let us use it every day as truck drivers and be the better person so that we can have a more balanced and centered life. If this helped you see your brain in a new way, hit the like button, share this message and video with other truck drivers that might need a mental tune-up, and subscribe to Survivorneers Truck Talk if you haven't done so already. Here we love to talk about personal development and how that we can stay balanced and centered as truck drivers and to reduce that stress daily in our lives.